Madam Chairperson, and I wanted to announce to all citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis that at this point in time, we have been under a state of emergency for some time now. In June of this year, the Parliament would have extended the state of emergency for an additional 6 months. The state of emergency would expire, come to an end, at the end of the 31st of December. That's at the end of tomorrow. Under the state of emergency, we have had a number of subsidiary legislation, regulations that have established the various restrictions and guidelines by which the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have sought for protection to curb the spread of the virus and for us to be safe. When the state of emergency ends tomorrow, it would not be the end of the restrictions, because we would then be covered by an Act of Parliament, the COVID-19 Prevention and Control Act, number 16 of 2020. This was an act that was passed last year, November, and which was done to give a framework for our health experts, our medical teams, for various technical people in our country, the national security services, the police, the defense force, and others, to be able to guide the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It allowed us very much to restrict the movements of persons when we had what was known as lockdown. Without the state of emergency, we could not enforce a curfew, or for that matter, a lockdown. And as the year has unfolded, as we have got to better understand how to treat with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have removed the curfew. We have not had a lockdown for some time, and we hope and pray to God that we don't have to return to that. So, on January the 1st, we would have new regulations, but these regulations would be based on the COVID-19 Prevention and Control Act. These regulations would be able to help to manage the entertainment industry, for instance. There would be no different from the regulations that have been proclaimed under the Emergency Powers Act. It allows entertainment events, as Superintendent Cromwell Henry has said, to be applied for via the Commission of Police. It allows for limiting the number of patrons, which is 75% of the capacity of the location, and the capacity of the location would then have to be managed where we allow one person to every 6 square feet, and when we have that number, it allows for 75%. That number should be posted on the walls or the entrance of the location. So we manage how people mingle and mix. There's some social distancing so that we can control the transmission and spread. But it still allows our entertainers to ply their living. It allows us to have events and functions once they're approved by the Commissioner of Police and his team, having consulted with the Chief Medical Officer. It allows these new regulations for street vending to be removed. That has been established, and we have to thank our people for having conformed and complied. We now have the Bastia Public Market being properly utilized once again. We now have the streets of Bastia being free of vendors. We now have vending locations such as the pasture on the Figueroa Road by Ponce Pasture. But these restrictions, these directions, these guidelines that have been made some time ago under the Emergency Powers Act, they continue under the new regulations. And the new regulations will also guide and give direction to regional and international travel. You would still have to, you must be able to apply via the SKNA travel form that's online when you want to enter St. Kitts and Nevis. This is a means by which the National Security, the Ministry of Health, Immigration, Customs are all able to control and manage those who enter our shores, once for the protection of our people and to ensure that it runs properly. So you will be expected, as Dr. Laws has explained, you will be expected to have a negative PCR test up to 72 hours before you fly. You are expected to be fully vaccinated if you are non-national. Nationals should also be not fully vaccinated, but those who are not, you are permitted to enter St. Kitts and Nevis unvaccinated, but you will be restricted to quarantine rules that still mandate that you be quarantined for 9 days. That in order to leave quarantine, you'll have to have a negative PCR test. The rules that have been in place over the last iteration of the SRNO number 44, the Emergency Powers Regulations, would still be in force, therefore. We would want to urge all our citizens to have extreme caution this season. True, we are celebrating 50 years of Carnival, but we must do so in a safe manner. We should wear masks, and we should be careful of how we interact in crowds. Be conscious of it. It does not mean that we cannot attend functions. It does not mean that we cannot enjoy ourselves, but we must be very, very cautious and very careful that we now have a variant of COVID-19 that is quick to be contracted, to be transmitted, as we do everything in our power. Non-pharmaceutical measures that we have been speaking for over a year and a half. Washing your hands, sanitizing, social distancing, wearing your masks. And those of you who are not vaccinated, you must make an appointment to get vaccinated soonest. Sites are open, it is free, and you need to get vaccinated for your protection and those around you. So, we have now come to the end of our state of emergency. We believe that it was a tool that was critical to keeping us safe. When we needed to have a lockdown, we needed to have the state of emergency. And that was effective. When we had that third wave, I think it would have been after May the 19th, we went to a lockdown. And it went a long way to break the cycle. Curfews also helped us to keep us separated, and we needed the state of emergency to have a curfew. If we have to have a widespread outbreak, we will have to consider whether we go and use this tool again. But for now, we believe as we open up, as we manage, that it is not necessary at this time for us to extend the state of emergency. And so I wish everyone a Happy New Year when it comes, that we continue to have a good holiday season and we stay safe. Thank you very much.